In 2012, there was a guy who was ranked second in the country and a 5-star recruit, but he was lying about his age. Normally, if you're a top player or have any attention at all, it's really hard to hide things from social media because people find out things. If you are a top player or one of the best high school athletes, it's really hard to hide things from social media because people find out everything about you. However, there was a guy who was able to hide something very serious from everyone. Shabazz Muhammad. You may have or may have not heard about this guy. Regardless of that, I can almost guarantee you do not know this guy's unbelievable and insane story. So without further ado, we gotta dive into this guy's story. And to do that, you guys already know we gotta throw it all the way back to where things started. Shabazz Muhammad was born on November 13th in 1992. Or was he? He was born in Long Beach, California to his father known as Ron Holmes. And his father plays a very key part in this guy's story. A little fun fact to throw in there is that when he was only 6 years old, he was diagnosed with Tourette's syndrome. And as he was growing up, he was basically known as the next big thing. And heading into his 9th grade year of high school basketball, he decided to attend Bishop Gorman High School in Las Vegas, Nevada. And he actually became one of the very few freshmen to ever start for the varsity basketball team. And his freshman and sophomore year, there's really not too much to talk about, but he did play pretty great for his team. But heading into his junior year, this was his breakout season. He wound up averaging an amazing 25.1 points a game as a junior. And not only that, he also pitched in 7.7 rebounds for the year, which is really impressive, but we don't stop there. He was also named the 2011 Gatorade Player of the Year for his state. And he was just a junior, so he still had one more year left. So I think it's safe to say, heading into his senior year, he had crazy expectations. And he was also racking up achievements off the court. He was even put on the Slam magazine. Now that is a rare and prestigious honor. For his senior season, he led his team to a 28-4 overall record. And in those games, he averaged 29.1 points per game. To go along with basically his 30-piece each and every night, he also pitched in over 5 rebounds. So with having another great season, he was named to the 2012 McDonald's All-American game. Not only was he named to this game, he was the MVP of the game with 21 points and 6 rebounds. Muhammad also participated in and won the 2012 Powerade Dunk Contest. Before we go any farther, we just have to stand back and admire how much this kid was doing at the high school level. Alright, let's continue on with our crazy story. We're just getting started. In 2012, he was rated the number 2 player in the entire country. But actually, by Rivals.com, he was the number 1 player in the country according to them. But for the sake of this video, we're going to say he was the number 2 player because that's what ESPN and Scouts Focus had him at. A basketball analyst known as Greg Anthony even called him a once-in-a-generation talent. So heading into college, he was really expected to be an immediate one and done. However, this is where our story takes a drastic turn. On April 11th in 2012, he announced he would attend UCLA, but he was actually declared ineligible to play hours prior to the season because of alleged violations. And these violations were about visits to other schools. The NCAA ruled he had received benefits for travel expenses and lodging from family friend Benjamin Lincoln. So if you don't know what that means, basically when he took visits to other schools, they were paying for it and renting out hotels for him. These alleged violations took place when he visited at Duke in North Carolina. But long story short, after missing only 3 games, he made an appeal to UCLA. And fortunately enough, he was reinstated, but his family was required to repay approximately $1,600. So that right there was already throwing up red flags, but this story continues to get even crazier. For his freshman year of college basketball, which was the season 2012 through 2013, he had a great year. He wound up averaging 17.9 points per game, which is really impressive for a freshman. He also pitched in roughly 5 rebounds and almost 1 assist per game as well. And one thing that was really impressive about his numbers was that he wasn't jacking up a lot of shots. He was doing this at a very efficient rate. His overall field goal percentage for the year was roughly 44%. And then behind the arc, his 3-point percentage was right at 37%, which is really good. And a lot of people were even saying he could be the number 1 pick. It was obvious, everyone knew he was only going to play 1 year in the draft. The question was just how high is he going to get drafted? And then something big happened. On March 22nd in 2013, it was revealed in a report from the Los Angeles Times that Muhammad was actually born exactly 1 year earlier than his birthday. So yes, he was actually 1 year older than he was saying he actually was. He was claiming to be born on November 13th in 1993, but he was actually born on November 13th in 1992. And when the police department looked at the public health records, it actually shown that this was true. So this actually made him a 20-year-old at the time, not a 19-year-old. And of course, everyone assumed he lied about his age because of obvious reasons. He wanted to look better competing against younger and smaller athletes. And apparently it wasn't Muhammad lying about his age, it was his father. But Muhammad still wasn't in the right, he was just going along with it. And when his father was asked about it, he said this in an interview: "It must be a mistake." And to find a clear motive and exactly why his father actually lied about his son's age for all these years was very unclear. Because he was still going to be a top player no matter what class he was in. So his motive for lying about this is still strange and unanswered till this day. And this wasn't an incident that was going to be taken lightly. This could even affect his draft stock. Before this news was actually released, a news writer actually texted Muhammad's father, and this is what his father said in the conversation: "Baz is going to blow up in the NBA. Let's team up and blow this thing up." By blow this thing up, he was talking about leaking his son's age. He was basically telling him just to forget about it. He also later added this: "I'm going to need a publicist anyways, why shouldn't it be you? We can do some big things together." So he was trying to basically bribe him, but that did not work. When all this news was getting released, it was another major red flag. But none of this was to suggest that he was going to go undrafted. He was very talented and he was still going to go in the lottery. So very shortly after all this crazy mess, on April 16th in 2013, he declared he would enter the 2013 NBA draft. And when he began his college career, he was projected to be a top 3 draft pick by all the mock boards. However, his stock did fall because of all the numerous red flags that popped up right before the draft. And with all that being said, he was drafted with the 14th overall pick by the Utah Jazz. But right after that, his draft rights were traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves. So things were kind of looking like they were back to normal for this guy. However, on January 5th in 2014, he was assigned to the Iowa Energy of the NBA Development League, which was known back then as the D-League. And with only 4 games with this team, he averaged nearly 25 points per game. And he also added a pretty amazing 9.8 rebounds per game. So on January 13th, which was only 8 days later, he was recalled back up by the Timberwolves. Flash forward to the 2014 through 2015 season, he had his breakout year. He averaged 13.5 points per game, and he shot a very impressive 51% from the field and almost 40% from deep. So he was looking like an average and almost good NBA player at this time. But this is where our story takes a slow decline. From the year 2015 all the way down to 2018, he just basically made that slow decline. His points per game went from 10.5 to 9.9 to 5 and then 3.8, which was really shocking because after his second year, people had a lot of high hopes for this guy. It was just one of those cases where he failed to deliver. And on March 1st in 2018, he was waived by the Timberwolves. Now this really came as to a shock to nobody because his career just wasn't what it used to be. But we're not stopping there, our story continues to go on. On March 4th in 2018, which is only 3 days later, he signed with the Milwaukee Bucks. And he actually showed flashes that he could still play. He even had one game where he scored a season high 22 points against the Orlando Magic. But once again, in October 11th of 2018, after playing in only 2 exhibition games, he was waived. And we're not done, but before we go any farther, we just have to stop and think about, man, this guy has a crazy story. And the fall off he's had is even crazier. Only one day later, on October 12th in 2018, Muhammad signed with a Chinese basketball team known as the Brave Dragons. And in the Chinese league, he was basically a star. On October 27th in 2018, when he made his debut, he had 26 points, 13 rebounds, and 3 assists. That's really impressive. And yes, I get it. Before y'all say, oh, he's not playing anybody, I understand it. But putting up 26 points and 13 rebounds is impressive against anyone. And if you don't think that was impressive enough, listen to this stat. On January 5th in 2019, Muhammad scored 60 points and also 15 rebounds against a team. 60 points, that's crazy. And it also was showing that this guy still had flashes of greatness. And hey, we gotta give props to him. He did not give up. He was still showing that he wanted to pursue basketball. Flash forward in time to August 15th of 2019, Muhammad signed with another Chinese basketball team. And this team was known as the Aviators. And as of right now, when I'm making this video, that is where we stand and that is where he stands in his basketball career. Man, oh man, not only what a basketball career, but what a life this guy has had. We just have to sit back and think about it. Apparently he received money from schools to go on visits, Not only that, right before the NBA draft, it was announced that he was lying about his age and now he's playing for a Chinese basketball team. And keep in mind, this was the number 2 player in the class of 2012. I do a lot of crazy stories on basketball players, but I can honestly say this is up there with the top of them. Shabazz Muhammad went from the number 2 overall player in his class to people finding out he was lying about his age to now a Chinese basketball team. And this is an absolute insane and crazy story. But is it over just yet? But hey man, with all this being said, that's about gonna wrap up this video. I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys learned something. If you are new to the channel, what are you doing? Join the family, hit that subscribe button and leave a like for more. And as always, let's be great. I'm out, y'all. Peace.